Have you ever felt like life is moving too fast, yet you're not in control of any of it? Do you catch yourself worrying about what others think, chasing things you can't control, or wasting time on distractions that leave you feeling empty? Let me ask you this. What if you could reclaim your inner peace without changing your circumstances? In a world obsessed with outcomes, competition, and comparison, there's an ancient wisdom that reminds us to look inward. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher from 2,000 years ago, offered insights that are more relevant today than ever before. In this video, we're going to break down 5 Stoic rules that can help you gain clarity, peace, and power in your daily life. But before we dive in, if you're on a path to self-mastery, personal growth, and mental resilience, make sure to subscribe for more tools to live a better life every single day. 1. Master the boundary of control. Most of what drains your energy every day isn't caused by your actions. It's caused by your attention being hijacked by things outside your control. Think about how many times a day you feel frustrated, anxious, or overwhelmed. Often, it's not because of something you did, but because of something you read online, something someone said, or some imagined scenario that hasn't happened yet. This is the trap of living reactively instead of deliberately. The news, other people's moods, the economy, or your social media feed can all become invisible puppeteers of your mental state unless you take back control of your focus. You can't control traffic. You can't control someone else's opinion. You can't control the economy, your past, or the future. These facts may seem obvious, but look closely at where your daily frustrations come from. The driver who cuts you off, the friend who doesn't text back, the job interview that didn't go your way, the aging process. All these things sit outside your direct command, and yet we respond to them as if our happiness depends on them obeying our wishes. That's why we suffer, not from events, but from our expectations about those events. But you can control how you show up. You can control your response. You can choose your attitude. This is where your true power lies. It may not seem like much, especially when life feels chaotic, but the internal space between stimulus and response is where your freedom lives. In that space, you decide whether to act with grace or react with impulse, whether to escalate conflict or de-escalate it, whether to ruminate or release. That choice is your kingdom. Protect it. Seneca taught that we suffer more from our judgments than from reality itself, because when you obsess over things beyond your reach, anxiety is inevitable. When we judge an outcome as unfair, or someone's behavior as unacceptable, or our past as unforgivable, we ignite our own suffering. The event may be neutral, but our interpretation makes it painful. By shifting your judgment, by saying, "This is outside my control, so I will meet it with acceptance," you end the cycle of self-inflicted torment. Freedom begins when you accept this truth. The only real control you have is over your thoughts, your actions, and your reactions. This is what the Stoics call the dichotomy of control, and mastering this boundary is the beginning of peace. When you accept that everything external is not yours to command, you stop resisting reality. You stop trying to bend life to your preferences. Instead, you bend your inner world to rise to life's challenges. Let go of trying to fix the world and start mastering your inner world. Let go of the need to change others, to perfect your circumstances, or to undo the past. That effort is wasted energy. Reclaim that energy by asking, what virtues can I practice right now? Can I meet this with patience, with compassion, with clarity? You'll find that the more you release your grip on the uncontrollable, the more control you actually feel, because now you're rooted in your own agency. Every day, ask yourself, what is in my control right now? Then act only on that. That one question can change the course of your day. It brings you back to the present, centers your focus, and clears the mental clutter. Maybe you can't fix the whole situation, but you can make one healthy choice, speak one kind word, or take one deep breath. That's enough. That's progress. You'll feel lighter, more focused, less anxious, because you've stopped carrying the burden of what was never yours to carry. Imagine walking through life no longer shackled by the weight of things you can't influence. You conserve energy, you build resilience, you become unshakable, not because life is easier, but because you've become stronger where it matters most, within. 2. Guard your time like a treasure. Let me give you a hard truth. You are dying, not all at once, but moment by moment. This isn't morbid. It's liberating if you accept it. Each hour, each breath is one you will never get back. And yet, we spend our time like we'll live forever, as if this moment is disposable. But death isn't just something that happens at the end of life. It's happening constantly. Every second you spend on something meaningless is a second you lose forever. Life isn't short. It's wasted by default, unless you fight for it. Seneca believed that time is our most precious possession. Yet we act as if it's infinite. We delay what matters, thinking we'll get to it one day. We let the trivial consume us while the meaningful waits. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." That quote should echo in your mind every time you consider binging another episode, checking your phone out, of habit, or engaging in small talk that adds no value. We protect our money, we protect our possessions, but we give away our time to distractions, to meaningless conversations, to chasing validation. You'd never let a stranger walk into your home and take your wallet. So why do you let apps, shallow entertainment, or toxic relationships rob your hours without protest? Time is not a renewable resource. Every second lost is a step closer to the finish line. Here's what Seneca said. People are frugal with their money but waste their lives, and yet time is the one thing we can never get back. He challenges us to ask, would you loan your entire day to someone else's priorities? Would you let them decide how you live? Because that's what happens when we live unconsciously. We drift, we scroll, we procrastinate. And when the day ends, we wonder where it went. It went to everything and everyone except what mattered. Start treating your hours like gold, because they are. Audit your day. Track your habits. Not to shame yourself, but to reclaim your time. Where does your attention go when you're bored? Who do you spend your energy on? What do you do out of obligation instead of purpose? When you start guarding your time like a treasure, you'll be amazed how much life you get back. Ask yourself, is this how I want to spend my limited time on Earth? And if not, have the courage to walk away. It might mean ending a draining relationship, saying no to a meeting, or closing the browser tab. It might mean disappointing someone, but every no to the unimportant is a yes to your real life. You owe that to yourself. Invest your time in growth, in stillness, in people who matter, in rest that restores you, in projects that build your legacy. It's not about being busy, it's about being intentional. Time invested in silence is still valuable. Time invested in love, creation, or self-reflection multiplies. Don't just fill your calendar, fill your life with what leaves you proud at the end of the day. Don't let the world steal your time. Own it, value it, use it with intention. You are not just spending time, you are spending your life. That reality should wake you up. Let it ignite urgency, not panic. Let it drive clarity, not pressure. Because when you truly realize how little time you have left, you stop wasting it and start living like it matters. 3. Practice discomfort before it arrives. Life is unpredictable, and yet most of us live as if comfort is guaranteed. We build routines, make plans, and cling to convenience as if the world owes us stability. But the Stoics knew better. They knew that suffering comes not just from adversity, but from being unprepared for it. And so they trained themselves not just to endure hardship, but to anticipate it. They rehearsed misfortune before it arrived, not because they were pessimists, but because they understood the power of forearmed resilience. Seneca taught the practice of premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of evils. This was a Stoic exercise in which one imagines all that could go wrong, not to wallow in dread, but to build emotional armor. He wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." In other words, when you visualize the storm, you stop being surprised by the rain. Instead of panicking, you pivot. Instead of crumbling, you adapt. It means to mentally prepare for setbacks before they happen, not to invite fear, but to build strength. Consider this. Athletes train in conditions far harsher than their competition day. Soldiers drill with weighted gear, actors rehearse in empty theaters, and astronauts simulate disasters before ever leaving Earth. Why? Because practice lowers panic, preparation builds presence, and expectation dulls the sting of surprise. Imagine loss. Picture delays, rejection, failure, pain. Why? So that when they do come, you won't be paralyzed. This is not negativity, it's strategy. Visualize the company failing. Visualize the breakup. Visualize the phone call you hope never comes. Then ask, how would I respond if this happened today? Suddenly, fear becomes clarity. You start rehearsing courage instead of catastrophe. You take control of the narrative instead of being its victim. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. It's resilience training for the soul. By facing possible hardship in your mind, you create space between fear and reaction. You learn to greet adversity like an old acquaintance, not a thief in the night. This mindset doesn't just reduce suffering, it increases your confidence. You walk through life knowing that while you can't control what happens, you've already trained for it. If you've already seen the worst in your mind, you won't be destroyed by it in real life. The Stoics weren't immune to tragedy. They simply refused to be broken by it. They believed that true peace came not from avoidance, but from readiness. From knowing that storms will come, and yet still choosing to stand. This is how warriors train. This is how Stoics live. They rehearse adversity so that life can't catch them off guard. Seneca even slept on hard floors and wore plain clothing to remind himself that comfort is a privilege, not a promise. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself, 'Is this the condition that I feared?' Spend just 5 minutes a day imagining what could go wrong and how you'd respond with courage, grace, and wisdom. This simple act rewires your nervous system. It teaches you that pain is survivable and fear is manageable. It allows you to meet life not with naivety, but with strength. Because when you've already practiced being brave, you don't have to search for courage. It's already within you. When you've trained your mind to remain steady in the storm, life no longer controls you. You control how you meet it. And that, ultimately, is the highest freedom, to remain grounded when everything else is shaken, not because you were lucky, but because you were ready. 4. Why these rules transform your life. When you start focusing only on what you can control, you eliminate most of your stress. Think about it. How much of your anxiety, frustration, and burnout comes from obsessing over things beyond your reach? You can't control other people's opinions, the economy, or the weather, but you can control your response. You can control your attitude, your effort, your preparation. The moment you internalize this, life stops feeling like a storm you're trapped in and starts feeling like a path you're navigating. You shift from powerlessness to power. from reactivity to intention. Focusing on what you can control is not a cop-out. It's a radical act of reclaiming your energy. When you value your time more than money, your priorities shift, and you start living on your own terms. Time is the only resource you can never get back, yet so many trade it away carelessly for money, approval, or distractions. When you truly value your time, you become selective. You stop people-pleasing. You stop chasing things that don't align with your deeper purpose. You become conscious of how you spend each hour. You start asking, does this serve me? Is this investment of my time making me better, stronger, freer? That one shift rewrites your daily life. It makes you less reactive, more proactive. It forces you to say no to what's meaningless so you can say yes to what matters. When you anticipate discomfort, it loses its power over you. Most people are paralyzed by fear, not because fear is overwhelming, but because they didn't expect it. They thought life should be easy. But when you expect discomfort, you stop being surprised by it. You prepare, you rehearse, you train yourself mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually to meet difficulty with readiness. Like a soldier anticipating the battlefield, you don't flinch, you respond. This anticipation turns pain into a lesson, failure into fuel, and challenge into character. It doesn't make you invincible, but it makes you resilient. These 3 rules aren't random. They're a system, a way of life, a philosophy for mental freedom. Each rule supports the others. Focusing on control strengthens discipline. Valuing time creates focus. Anticipating discomfort builds courage. Together, they form a mental framework, a kind of compass that keeps you grounded regardless of what life throws at you. You begin to see patterns in chaos. You start making better decisions, not because life gets easier, but because your mind gets sharper. This is the architecture of a deliberate life, and it starts from the inside out. They give you clarity in chaos, presence in distraction, and strength in uncertainty. In a world addicted to noise, these rules bring you back to silence. In an age of constant change, they give you a foundation. They are the antidote to overwhelm because they simplify the complex. You stop needing to control everything because you realize you were never meant to. You just need to show up fully for what is yours to carry, and that realization is liberating. You don't need more hacks, you need more presence. These rules give you that. Together, they form the mindset of someone who refuses to be a victim, who takes ownership of their life moment by moment. Victimhood isn't just about being hurt. It's about surrendering your power. These rules help you reclaim that power. You become the kind of person who says, I can't control the world, but I can control my response. That mindset makes you unstoppable. Life will still test you, but you'll stop seeing those tests as punishment and start seeing them as training. Ownership becomes your default mode, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. It's the only path to real freedom. This isn't just self-help, it's self-mastery. Anyone can read a quote or repeat a mantra, but to live these truths day in and day out, that takes practice, reflection, and inner work. Self-mastery is about consistency. It's about rising after failure, resetting after distraction, and realigning after detour. It's about knowing yourself so deeply that external chaos no longer derails your inner peace. These rules aren't about hype, they're about transformation. Quiet, grounded, sustainable transformation. You stop being a leaf blown by the wind and instead become the tree, rooted, grounded, immovable. Life's storms will come, that's a guarantee. But when you live by these principles, you don't get swept away. You become stable, not rigid, but resilient. You sway, but you don't fall. You respond, but you don't react. You endure, and you grow. That's the real power of these rules. They don't make life easier, they make you stronger, and over time, you become unshakable. 5. Start small, master daily. You don't need to change your entire life overnight to apply these ideas. Change doesn't have to be dramatic to be effective. In fact, the biggest transformations often begin quietly, one decision at a time. You don't need to burn bridges or quit your job or disappear into the mountains. What you need is consistency. What you need is one moment each day where you choose better. These rules aren't about upheaval, they're about alignment. Start with what's in front of you, one action, one mindset shift, one brave choice. Begin with small steps, one reflection, one shift, one habit. You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You take the first step, and then another. Maybe today it's waking up 10 minutes earlier to journal. Maybe it's turning your phone off for an hour to focus. Maybe it's saying no to something that drains you. The point isn't scale, the point is direction. If you take small steps in the right direction consistently, the results compound. Habits build character. Repetition builds resilience. Start small, but start with intention. Every morning, ask yourself, what can I control today? This single question grounds you. It cuts through the noise and gives you clarity. Maybe you can't control your boss's mood or the traffic or your partner's reactions, but you can control your mindset, your effort, your energy. When you begin your day with this clarity, you operate from power instead of pressure. You stop wasting time trying to bend the world and instead focus on sharpening yourself. Every evening, look at your day and ask, where did I waste time? Where did I grow? Reflection is the backbone of progress. Without it, your days blur into each other and your growth plateaus. But when you pause and review, honestly, without judgment, you begin to see patterns. You spot where you self-sabotage. You recognize where you rose above your old limitations. This is where change becomes conscious. It's not about perfection. It's about self-awareness. Growth comes from noticing, adjusting, and repeating. And at least once a week, rehearse a challenge in your mind. Visualize how you'd respond with strength and calm. Mental rehearsal is a secret weapon. Athletes use it, leaders use it, warriors use it. So why shouldn't you? When you practice responding to difficulty in your imagination, you create neural pathways that prepare you for the real thing. You train your body and mind to stay calm, to act with intention, to rise under pressure. This isn't make-believe, it's a form of resilience training. You build strength before you need it. Write it down, reflect, adjust, grow. That's how change becomes permanent. Real transformation doesn't live in inspiration, it lives in application. You can feel motivated in a moment, but without structure, that motivation fades. Writing things down makes your growth trackable. Reflecting makes it meaningful. Adjusting makes it strategic. And repeating makes it lasting. This is the quiet work behind the scenes, the work that nobody sees, but everyone notices in your presence, your focus, your energy. These aren't ancient theories locked in dusty books. They're tools, real, practical, and powerful. Too often we romanticize wisdom as something mystical or unreachable, but real wisdom is usable. It lives in your habits, your routines, your reactions. These ideas come from ancient roots, yes, but they're more relevant now than ever. In a world of distraction, discipline is a superpower. In a time of chaos, clarity is rare. These tools help you become the kind of person who creates stability from the inside out. If you apply even one of these rules consistently, you'll feel it. More clarity, more control, more peace. Try it, even for a week. Choose just one rule and live it. Watch what happens. Your mind quiets, your decisions sharpen, your sense of power returns. This isn't because life gets easier. but because you've become clearer. You stop overthinking. You start doing. That shift, subtle at first, ripples into everything else. One small commitment can realign your entire life. And once you feel that shift, you'll never want to go back. Because you'll remember what it feels like to live with intention. You'll know what it's like to wake up with clarity and go to sleep with pride. You'll see how powerful you become when you live by design, not default. And once you've tasted that, the old way of living, reactive, distracted, aimless, will no longer appeal to you. You'll crave alignment. You'll crave discipline. And you'll keep growing, not because you have to, but because you want to. You've spent enough time worrying about what you can't control, enough time letting others dictate your worth, enough time giving your hours away without intention. Today, that ends. Because now, you know better. You know where your real power lies. Focus only on what's in your control. Protect your time like it's sacred. Train your mind to face life head-on. And when you do, you'll become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, share it, and join a community of people who choose mastery over mediocrity. This is your time. Make it count. Live it with purpose. Live it with power.